Customer service, as I've said, tends to be reactive. Customer excellence tends to be proactive. Okay? What I mean by that is customer experience or customer excellence. You can try and plan for it. Okay? So customer service, I'll do this when I'm asked reactively. Okay? Customer experience, well, we can almost map that. Okay? So about 4 weeks ago, I was doing some work with the guys in Rotherham. We were doing something called a BPE map. We were mapping the process for the BPE team from start to finish, the whole customer journey, all the way through. Okay. Sometimes, and the main reason we were doing it was for process, but also behaviour. And what I mean by that is customer experience. So what's the best possible process for the customer, and then what's the best possible process for us to run that internally to make sure that the customers are getting touch points and then we retain them and we get return business and so on and so on. That mapping process is also very, very useful to do for internal departments. So doing that mapping process and having the swim lanes and who does what and all that type of stuff, and when that happens, mapping those processes out internally is actually really useful, because it means you can generate the best internal customer experience that flows all the way through. A lot of what this comes down to is customer service, communication. Actual departments talking to each other on a regular basis, making sure the processes between departments flows quick, easy, slick, fast, yeah, and everybody is adding value to that process rather than either duplicating things or working against each other with that. Okay? So when it comes to customer service, internal or external, but obviously we're focusing on internal, people, process, positive intent. Okay? People, red, yellow, green, blue. Know your profiles, know your people, learn a bit more about it. I know some of you on here would have had your profile run. I've run it before. You know, if you haven't looked at it in 6 months, go and dig it out, pick it up, read it again, read the descriptions, and start looking for different profiles in the business. If you haven't run your profile, ask me for these slides, watch the YouTube channel once we've got this uploaded, and start looking for different types of profiles, and then how can you adapt to get the best out of them. That's the people stuff, okay? Process, yeah? Map out your interdepartmental journeys, yeah? You're not going to do them all at once. I'm not suggesting you sit down and you take a week to do this, but if there's, you know, go to the ones that caused you most fires first, yeah? You know, go to, you know, for instance, I was talking with Dean Maller last week. I was doing a leadership training session with, and Dean was part of it. And Dean was telling me they've generated integration. I think he called them integration engineers. You might have to correct me, Pete, if I haven't got the right phraseology here. But integration engineers to between kind of commissioning and engineers, and you know, trying to bring the new, you know, the design and new product together, all that type of stuff. Is that right, Pete? Yeah, great, fantastic, good stuff. Yeah, that's a perfect example, an absolutely perfect example of when people and process starts to get looked at. And what a great, I did say this, Pete, actually, to Dean, what a fantastic job role, integration engineer. How great would it be if we had integration people to make sure that that departmental internal customer service was working on a regular basis? How great would it be? And I'm not just trying to make up jobs for job's sake. Maybe it's not a full-time job. Maybe it's somebody's job as well as doing their job. Yeah? You could argue maybe it's all of our jobs to make sure that we're all partly interdepartmental integration experts, yeah? Integration officers, if you like. And I just thought, I thought I'd use that example today, because when Dean told me about that, and I'm not sure if Dean's on today actually, but when Dean told me about that, I just thought, do you know what? That's absolutely fantastic, that is, because it goes a long way to go, okay, so we know we need to get our people bit right between departments, because we know people clash sometimes, so we're all going to have to do a little bit of adapting behaviour. But what are the processes in place as well? What's the internal process map between this department and that department to make sure everybody's giving value, and of course the output is external customer service, the best possible external customer service. And you can see this when you see businesses that are seamless with their processes and their interdepartmental working. The end result is easier, quicker, faster, more profitable. It is so important. Rolls-Royce Aerospace, when I was doing some work with them, they were very siloed, and I'm going to use this example later, but in a bit more detail. But just briefly, in the end, instead of having somebody making engineers, design, HR, sales, maintenance. They had all these different departments for making an engine, an aircraft engine. In the end, they actually changed their whole process. They integrated one person responsible for one engine. So let's say the Trent 1000 engine, something like that. Those are the engines that kind of go on 747s and things like that. The Trent 1000 engine had a project owner, had somebody from sales, had somebody from maintenance, had somebody from HR, had somebody, and they streamlined the process all the way through, because their interdepartmental conversation and the way they work didn't work very well, actually. So there's loads of different ways we can do this, but it's so important. Lastly is positive intent. Now again, I used this phrase earlier, and you've probably heard me say it before. This is a biggie when it comes to internal customer service. If you do things for the right reasons, even if you get them wrong, some people will normally get over that and let you off, okay? So if you do something with positive intent to help another department and it doesn't quite come off that way, once you've explained the reasons for doing it, people normally go, okay, fair enough, go with it, okay? It's the people that don't have positive intent that bring up all the walls in all the other departments, and then of course trying to get customer service through a wall is more important. And then of course you get a silent mentality, which we're going to do in about 40 minutes, okay? Okay, so customer experience, customers for life. Now, if I was talking to you about this externally, I would say, how do you need to get customers for life? What are the 3 things you need customers for life? Your internal customers are customers for life, whether you like it or not. Generally, most of the time, okay? I know sometimes things are outsourced and things like that, but generally, most of your customers for life, which is why we actually sometimes take them for granted. We don't take our external customers for granted because they could go somewhere else and get another product off somebody else. So we don't take them for granted because we don't always know we've got them for life. But our internal ones, we know we've got them for life because that's just the IT department, that's just the HR department, that's just the operations department, that's just the sales department. So, well, they're always going to be there. So we don't have to treat them in that way because they're just there. That's their job, isn't it, to help us? Do you know what? Yes, it's everybody's job to help each other. But whether they do it and actually make sure that they're treating their internal customers appropriately is a slightly different question, okay? So, map the journey if you possibly can. Like I said, that's quite useful. Map the journey. What is the interaction between these departments? Can we map it? Can we make it quicker, easier, slicker, faster for everybody? Can we know so people can follow it? That way, you're going to get the best out of both departments, if you can do that. Number 2, communicate, okay? There's got to be regular dialogue. Yeah, sometimes companies also do things like job shares and things like this. God, I remember way back many years ago when I was very new into energy at the time, and literally not long before I came in, there was a bit of job swapping going on. I think some of the stores guys had spent a bit of time with the service desk. Some of the service desk had spent a bit of time with the stores. I know the service desk girls have been out with engineers and stuff like that. All of that type of stuff is all great because it keeps communication flowing between departments, so people have information. Remember, in the absence of information, people make it up. It's as simple as that, okay? Communicate, 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 yeah? It says customer touch points, internal customer touch points. How often do you speak to other departments? How often do you ring another department or speak to somebody just to tell them they've done a great job, rather than ask them for something? Yeah? There's probably not the same balance in place. You're probably asking them more than you're telling them for doing a great job, but it goes a long way, that. Goes a long way to ring up another department and go in there. Do you know what? You've really facilitated this for us. That's a great. I just wanted to say thank you because you've done an awesome job on that. Yeah, really useful to do. Okay. Oops. The key thing though is measure and review. Okay. Now this is something a lot of companies don't always regularly do. How can you measure your internal customer service? Okay, internal customer service normally gets left out of measurement. Even if you're doing employee engagement surveys, customer surveys, and so on and so on and so on, that's all fine. Employee engagement is normally about the individual, not so much about the department, and of course customer surveys are to find out how good your external customer service is. But how often do you measure and review your internal customer service? And do you know what? This doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to turn into a big survey with with 20 or 40 questions in it. It could simply be once a quarter, worst case half a year, yeah? Then, you know, the head of the department or somebody that's been appointed to take control of this, it's maybe firing an email out or picking a phone up to other departments and just asking a couple of questions. How well are we facilitating what you need from this department? How well are you treated when you phone and ask for something from this department? How quickly do you get a response from this department when you ask us for something? It's just little few questions like that that actually make the difference, and you can measure and review. And you know, the reason people don't do this is because they think it's too hard, it's too difficult, and they haven't got enough time to do it. It doesn't take long. Come up with 3 questions. 3 questions, fire it out to other departments and get some answers. You can even use a 1 to 10 scale, yeah? You know, how quickly do you get a response from our department? 1, never. 10, within an hour. Yeah? You know, what value do we give you as a department? Yeah? 1, no value. 10, absolute. Or even 1 to 5, whatever. It doesn't really matter, yeah? But it's worth doing, okay? So, map the journey, get buy-in and communicate, build relationships, and measure and review your internal customer service.